It's the biggest crowd I've seen at a greyhound meet ever. Good luck, everyone. Slot holders, trainers, owners and fans, we're set to go. The Phoenix.
Another week goes by, another week closer to the running of the 2024 Phoenix. And I tell you what, I know I said last week there was plenty of water to go under the bridge. Well, some of that water has made its way out to the ocean with the running of Melbourne Cup night. It's always a big decider, I think, of a lot of Phoenix slot holders as to what their plans will be. And for episode 3 of the podcast, we are going all over the place. We're going to obviously continue with our top 8 seeds. A lot has changed. A few greyhounds have been locked away. We're going to chat to Whelan in regards to Lakeview Emily. Does she deserve a place in the race? We're chatting Silver Chief. We're chatting Hobart 1000. And a little bit more. And Smithy, of course. He's on the line raring to go. Smithy, how are you, Mr. Group 1 third place getter? How are you?
Going well, mates. Going well. We were just talking before we started recording off air, and the old adage for media people is don't bring conversations off air on air. But you told me I've got a really nice start to the show. Obviously, plenty's happened to the Phoenix, and you've run with an analogy that the water's running out to the ocean. I don't know if you're just not prepared enough, Jim, but that is a horrific start to the podcast. And if there's anyone that's still listening as they get to this point in the show, stick around because I reckon it's going to get a bit better than that. It has to.
Might get slightly better. But have you ever seen where the sort of the what is it, river water gets out to the ocean? It can actually stay as fresh water for a certain period when it gets out to the ocean and vice versa. Did you know that?
Well, it doesn't get diluted by the salt until there's more salt than in the freshwater, Jim. This is just a fantastic science podcast for Phoenix Flight Path.
Well, mate, there's a lot of science to the Phoenix. There's no doubt about that. There's actually a river in Warrnambool that goes out, and I think if you swim in the first, say, kilometre or two of the river, it's actually swimming in salt water. So there's something you might not have known. You may have known. I'm not too sure. But, mate, straight off the top, let's chat about the 2 greyhounds that have been locked away since the last time we recorded 7 days ago. First one is Big Energy, which I think comes as no surprise. He's arguably one of the quickest dogs in the country. He's trained by Team Greeno. They had that wonderful affiliation with Sportsbet already in the first 3 runnings. The dual success with Wow, She's Fast. So I don't think that comes as a surprise.
Yeah, no, it didn't come as a surprise, the Big Energy announcement. As you said, Team Greeno had been with Sportsbet throughout the first 3 editions. Wow, She's Fast looked after them pretty nicely in the first 2 and with her 4th last year as well in the 3rd edition. So no real surprise that they've gone with Big Energy. He's a dog that's in form at the moment, and you want a dog that's going really nicely at the time when you're picking one for $1 million race.
Second up was today, as we record Monday afternoon. I was actually calling at Hillsville and I nearly fell out the window when this one came through. It was Smooth Plain, and it's one thing I love about greyhound racing, though, because everybody has a different opinion. Personally, I wouldn't pick him in a Phoenix. He's just not the greyhound that I think profiles for a Phoenix, but we saw on Saturday night what he did, $4.95 to the peg at Sandown Park, which I think was a little bit of a fluke, but obviously the slot holders think, well, if he can bring that to a Phoenix, he can win. What did you make of the decision for the group to go with Smooth Plain?
Yeah, well, we just said that Big Energy kind of came as no surprise. Smooth Plain did come as a surprise, but look, I've said it on record a few times. I think he's one of the most underrated dogs in Australia. Does that mean I would have had him in my Phoenix slot? I'm probably leaning a bit more towards your side of things, Jim. But to be honest, he's a dog that runs fast times wherever he goes. He's multiple Group 1 placed, and he's a sort of dog that I think will be able to recoup the money pretty nicely for Australian bloodstock. Whether he can win, whether he can beat all 7 dogs that he'll face on the night, that's the question. But I can't see him running last. He's a dog that's pretty bomb-proof. He's a dog that has decent sections throughout the whole race. So I can understand the logic behind it. But you and I, we've spoken over the last few weeks about there being about 20 dogs that could win a Phoenix on any given night. I don't think either of us had Smooth Plain in consideration, but I did back him pre-post for a Melbourne Cup, so I pulled his tail there, and maybe I just got the race wrong.
Possibly. I get the feeling what's happened is the Australian Bloodstock team have gone out to the Daly's property and they've said, look, we want to chat to Josh and Corey in regards to Blue Camaro, and Andrea, Tom and the team, they've locked them inside the house and said, we've got something else. We've got Smooth Plain, because I'm not sure. Blue Camaro was scratched the other night, wasn't he? So maybe something's not 100% right there, and maybe that was how they came to Smooth Plain, or maybe they just elected Smooth Plain from the start. But what I do like from Australian Bloodstock is they've showed some real big cojones, Smithy, because when you go through the market, he is a bloody long way down and he's already been selected. So they've gone with their gut, and you can't knock that.
No, you definitely can't knock that. And at the end of the day, they're the ones putting up their money to buy a slot. They're the ones that can make a decision. And it's not like they're picking one left of centre. Smooth playing is multiple Group 1 placed. So no knocking the dog, no knocking the dailies. Of course, they're absolute superstars. It's just one that you and I probably weren't expecting. And there's probably a few people in that camp.
We love that about the Phoenix, though, and that is what makes even this podcast, I think, so good. I know we can pump up our own podcast, Smithy, but just to be able to talk about these things as we build to the race, I think that's one of the great things about the Phoenix. Now, the Melbourne Cup, how has this shaped the race? Because Explicit, I think he was absolutely phenomenal. He had to hurdle the tumbler in the run to the first corner, who is okay, Sunset Fraser. But to then race away and win the way he did, I think although it was a messy race, and we don't like that, but although it was messy, I think the best dog has found a way to win the race, Explicit, and it just builds the lead up, I think, to the Phoenix now, knowing that this is not only a chance for him to claim maybe the two greatest races in Victoria, but also to go out in his final two starts, winning a Melbourne Cup and a Phoenix if he's successful. So there's a bit riding on this.
There's plenty riding on it, and I don't think anyone's really shied away from the fact that Explicit is the most talented dog in the country. I've always said he's the best dog, and there's probably a little bit of egg on my face with some of the draws in particular that he got in some of these big finals, and they're the only sort of races that he's failed in, these big finals, and there was always that knock, but he's one of the more deserving big Group 1 race victory winners. He was super, and as you said, you never want to see a dog go down, but with all those dogs with so much early speed, like Scalacci was so close to leading, and do they catch him if he leads? He got turned sideways at that first bend, and that was all she wrote. But how good was that race, though? From a pure racing perspective, it was so competitive. Every dog, was punching up, trying their best, having a real crack at going to the front, and something had to give, and in my opinion, the best dog ended up winning it.
I agree. I think there was three runners that really shaped towards the Phoenix. Obviously, Explicit winning the race. Second up, I think, was the greyhound you mentioned, Scalacci. I think that run, to me, with the fairy tale of Ladbrokes going back-to-back, I think that locks him away for Ladbrokes, because he was outstanding in his heat, and arguably, as you say, if he crosses to lead, he wins the Melbourne Cup potentially, and then he's a lay-down misère to take his place in the race. So I am pretty keen on him to be locked away. The other one was Sunset Fraser. Now, obviously, he took a tumble, so we have to hope that he can get back on track pretty quickly, but his turn of foot before he fell was just explosive. He was going two to everyone else's one, and I think that's why he ran into a little bit of trouble. So they were the three runners that I think really picked themselves moving forward out of the Melbourne Cup. Do you agree with those, Smith?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a fair summation, and I know we'll get to our power rankings pretty soon, but I think a lot of slot holders initially go, we just want early speed, and I'd probably be the same as well. But now we're getting to a point where we saw it last year with Total Container Solutions taking Hector Fawley the week before the race. They're looking for a little bit of strength as well. Not everything can lead, and we saw that in the Melbourne Cup. Something has to give. So sometimes these stronger dogs, like your Smooth Plains, even your Big Energy, they might end up being good selections because it's their mid-race and back half of the races that are where they're at their best.
Well, the most eagerly awaited segment on the podcast, Corey, is the top 8 rankings. And although 5 of the 8 have been sliced away, there's only a couple of spots. One of them will go to the Queensland Flame. It's now time to try and break down our top 8. I'm even doing the runners that have been locked away in order, Smithy. So I've gone to the next level. Starting with greyhound number 1, Explicit, Melbourne Cup winner. We know why we're tipping him on top. 2, Excavation. Hard luck story not to be in the Melbourne Cup. I wasn't disappointed by his run last night or Saturday night either. He just didn't get the right start. He was crowded up early, but I thought he was okay. Big Energy's my 3rd ranked greyhound of the 5 that have been selected. Rinse the Lot number 4. Have you heard anything about that? We'll get to that in just a moment because we don't really know how he's going, Rinse the Lot. Smooth Playing comes in as the roughie, I think the underdog going in of the locked runners. Now, of the runners left, number 6, I'm sticking with Tim Zoo. I mean, I've been with him when he wasn't winning. He went 33.67, made the statement of all statements to say, I'm Phoenix ready, and I'm shocked he hasn't been picked already. Number 7 for me is Scalacci. I think the fairy tale locks away now. He goes into the position of Ladbrokes, and that's just the way it's going to go, I think, for mine. I have absolutely no inside knowledge, but Jihad Talji said on this podcast a couple of weeks ago that he's going better than last year, and off his last 2 runs, I 100% believe him. Not that I didn't believe him before. Number 8, Kia Kaha. Now, I don't know much about these Brisbane dogs, but it's a front runner. Warren Nichols, a very, very good trainer. I think he might have had a runner in a Phoenix a few years ago, potentially. So happy to go with Kia Kaha in for 8. Now, we're even including the reserves this time around because these could be important, especially if one of these don't end up making it to the Phoenix. 9, I've gone Lakeview Emily. Just what she did on Monday night. Was it Friday night? Friday night. What she did on Friday night, 29.52. She couldn't have possibly done anything more to say I'm ready for a Phoenix. And number 10 is Sunset Fraser. The only reason he's not higher up is pending his recovery from the fall and whether or not he can get back to the races in time. So my top 10, 10 Sunset Fraser, 9 Lakeview Emily, 8 Kia Kaha, 7 Scalacci, 6 Tim Zoo, and the rankings of the lock runners: Smooth Plane, Rinse the Lot, Big Energy, Excavation, Explicit. And guess what, Smithy? I'm still on the phone to greyhounds like Flying Zulu to Blue Camaro. There's a host of them I'm still making contact with. And these two slot holders might be in prime position now because they only have to jostle between each other. They might even let the Silver Chief go. Iconic Jet trialled like a jet. Maybe he wins the Silver Chief and then backs up the week later in the Phoenix.
Yeah, well, it's an intriguing one, Jim. We've certainly copped our fair share of flack over the last few weeks, and I'm just going to come out and say it. Unfortunately, Kenya All Class is going to miss the Phoenix. We didn't get any calls from any of the slot holders, Jim, but we'll leave him out this week by popular demand. Everyone wants him gone from the power ranking, so I'll turf him for this week, Jim. But I'll rip through mine now, and I've gone in order as well. I've gone Explicit, I think, is the top seed, the top ranking, has been for a while. Excavation has been phenomenal too. I think they're 1A and 1B, but we'll say they're number 1 and number 2 for the purposes of this. Rinse the Lot, we'll get to him very shortly. I think he's being slept on a little bit. I think the thing that's underrated is you give very good trainers in Michelle Sultana and Daryl Thomas the opportunity to prep a greyhound for months leading up to a race, a greyhound that's as talented as Rinse the Lot. I wouldn't be sleeping on him. In at number 4 is Big Energy. How good is the form that he's in at the moment? Smooth Plane, the announcement today for Australian Bloodstock goes in at 5. I'm going to put in at number 6, Scalacci as well. Now, you've said it's a lay-down misère. Unless you've got different mail to me, Jim, I don't know if it is, but I think it makes sense. It makes all the sense in the world. You've won last year. You've made a little bit of cash on him, and you kind of stump up again and go for the fairy tale. We've already seen one back-to-back winner, Ken Scalacci, do it again. In at number 7, I'm going to go with the Queensland Flame winner, and I've had Jay's Jay and Autumn Storm both in my power rankings at certain points, and I'm leaning towards Jay's Jay, and this is probably me picking with my heart rather than my head to see him come back from a stud career, come back to racing just because he has the zest for it, and come back and win a Queensland Flame and have another crack at the Phoenix. I think it'd be an unbelievable story and a great training performance by the Zammets, who are as good as it gets in the business. And then in number 8, it's essentially a total container solution spot, I'd guess, here. So Sunset Fraser for me. I know he fell in a Melbourne Cup, but I just can't get that heats run out of my head. I don't know whether he's fully recovered from it. I don't have any inside knowledge on it, but I just think with that back split going into the Phoenix, you'd think the Meadows would suit him. If he's right, he's my number 8. And I know you've asked me for extra homework, Jim, and you've asked for the reserves, so I'll give you those. And I narrowed it down to 3, and I found it really hard from there. So I'd probably change my mind if you ask me again tomorrow. But I've got Lakeview Emily in at 9 and Tim Zoo in at 10. Both phenomenal performances over the last week or so, and just the knock on Blue Camaro of being scratched. Whether he's going to be right to go, I'm not sure. So 1 Explicit, 2 Excavation, 3 Rinse the Lot, 4 Big Energy, 5 Smooth Plane, 6 Scalacci, 7 the Queensland Flame winner, Jay's Jay. Hopefully, or not hopefully, we have no idea. Who knows who's going to win that race, but it's going to be a ripper. And then Sunset Fraser at 8, Lakeview Emily 9, Tim Zoo at 10. So that's my power rankings. I know everyone's nice and excited to see these every week, and everyone will be sitting behind those keyboards firing off a few little complaints or questions to us, Jim. But that's what makes this race so much fun, is the different opinions that everyone has.
Big race preview. People probably wondering, what are we doing on the Green Light On Racing and Sport podcast, episode 3 of the Phoenix Flight Path. Don't forget to follow the socials. Either you can jump on Facebook, search Green Light On. You can jump on YouTube, give the channel a follow. Numbers are going up beautifully on there as well, mind you. So if you're not watching, I'm not sure what you're doing, but we're just going to have a quick look at the all-in market for the Silver Chief, because I still feel like there's a chance there could be a greyhound this year that comes out of this series. He flies at the Meadows, he or she, and then he fronts up in the Phoenix the week later. I'm not even sure if that's physically possible, but I'm hoping it is. I know they have to have numbers through and all the paperwork signed, Smithy, but I'm looking past that. Iconic Jet's the favourite, $5. Field Day, $6. He's run to Lakeview Emily the other night, absolutely enormous. Joey the Jet, epitomised. They're the next two best. How good's this? Two runners that were in the Melbourne Cup, hopefully heading to the Silver Chief. Poor Vortex at $12, Extra Diet at $15, and the list goes on. But right now, if I had to pick one early, I'm probably going to lean to Field Day or Epitomise. Epitomise, of course, won the Great Chase, so proven at the Meadows. And Field Day, with a touch of luck in running, could have gone a long way in that Melbourne Cup series. And I don't know, I can't leave out Iconic Jet. 29.52 with extraordinary sections at the Meadows first 500. This is an extraordinary Silver Chief, Smithy. Extraordinary is probably an understatement.
Yeah, on paper, some of these greyhounds going around with resumes that you don't often see in these age-restricted races. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a great edition of the heats and hopefully plenty of talent. There will be plenty of talent that gets through to the final, and I'm looking forward to that on December 14th as well. And as you said, who knows, they might end up in a Phoenix as well. I think the one that I'm honing in on in the early stages is Epitomise. You and I were both there during the Highway 31 series when he started his career, and he was phenomenal there. And then he comes out and wins the Great Chase, and then all of a sudden he's in a Melbourne Cup final. The Greenos don't throw them in the deep end, as you and I well know, and they've done it with this dog. So they obviously have the opinion that he's every bit as good as we think he is. So I think heading towards a Silver Chief with the sectionals that Epitomise can run, can probably win from any draw, really, depending on the greyhounds drawn around him. I think it's really, really hard to go past Epitomise.
It's going to be an extraordinary series. They've even got Jimmy Vandermark calling the race series. I think Daniel Hibbard must have put in for holiday leave, I'd say, because otherwise they wouldn't be putting me in the hot seat, that's for sure. But looking forward to calling the heat and the final of the Silver Chief. On to the Hobart 1000 now, where I reckon for the first time on the Green Light On podcast, really getting a bit of a national flavour. Going through the heats, we'll have a look at the favourite for each heat and see if you've got a tip there, Smithy. Of course, chances are you're going to lose. 1-800-858-858 or visit gamblinghelponline.org.au. But first up, heat number 1 is race 3. And I still think there's dogs that are going around in this Hobart 1000 that could still play a part in the Phoenix. Hence, we're having a chat about it here. Inconspicuous, $2.60. Bernie Burrow, $1.85. I'd be leaning to that duo because they're both dynamic, they're both hardcore sprinters, and they're ready to win a race like this.
Yeah, I think it's hard to go past them. I know Hit the Switch has gone phenomenal times, probably not going as well as he once was. So I'll probably lean towards Bernie Burrow, who's got the more experience at the track out of the two.
Vincent Bales, a short-priced elect in race number 4, heat number 2, $1.95. We've seen him be really unlucky at Sandown Park the last few weeks, but his best form, the Cranbourne Cup races like that, he should be mighty hard to beat in his heat of the Hobart 1000.
I think there's no question mark that he's the best dog in the race, and the big long straight there at Hobart should suit him, I think. But Ducati Roy's probably the one of the locals that I think might have placed in the Hobart 1000 last year, Jim, from memory. So I wouldn't be discounting that either.
Past the bucks, the Victorian hopeful. We are being a little bit biased here, mainly chatting about the Victorians, but they're also leading the market in just about every heat. 225, box number 1. We've had Anthony Azzopardi on this podcast. He said he doesn't love him from box number 1, but he's clearly the X factor of this heat. Boracay Storms in 4, and we know the pace and the burn he can have, and maybe it's a replication of when they met at Bendigo.
Yeah, you got to lean towards Past the Buck, just the talent that he has. And I think he is racing pretty well. I know his last couple of starts have been somewhat average numerically, but I think he's going well enough to be winning this heat, despite the fact that box 1's not exactly where he wants to be.
Race number 6, heat 4, you've got box 5, Hotel Whiskey 1 at around $2.70. Fernando Phil's at $4.40, and Mile a Minute onto the circle. He's been the star of straight racing over the middle to latter part of this year. He won the National Straight Track Championship, won the Hillsville Cup as well, didn't he? $2.90 the price at the moment. I'm going to lean to Hotel Whiskey 1. I just think he sort of crabbed a little bit around the corners at I was going to say Hobart, but hopefully not, at Sandown Park. He crabbed a little bit through the corner, and his Meadows run was outstanding. So I'll back in Anthony Azzopardi and Hotel Whiskey 1.
I'll take mile a minute in this one, Jim. I reckon box number 8 will be no disadvantage, and with the speed that's going to take each other on in the middle sectors of the race, I think mile a minute might be able to capitalise.
Race 7's a good clash, and again, we're not really mentioning the full fields, just trying to get through them, but Matlock's off the red, drawn beautifully, wanted the fence so hard in his Melbourne Cup heat, brought Lakeview Emily unstuck on that occasion. Sipping Grillis, the word is he is airborne at the moment. He's 420, Matlock's 210, Raiders Guide, the star over 600 plus, but we know how versatile he is, $3.30. I can't tip in that. Honestly, can't tip. Splinters.
No. Well, I'll give you one, and I'm chairman and CEO of the Raiders Guide fan club, so I'll never, ever tip against him. I think Matlock's sectionals that he can run, I think Hobart will really suit, but I'll take Raiders Guide. I'm kind of hoping that there's a scenario where there's plenty of speed taking each other on. Raiders Guide gets the camp and goes bang late.
Heaps of depth in the Hobart 1,000. What about heat number 8? This one's intriguing. You've got Aston Fantastic 225 v Serial Sticker. That's the market, $1.80 for the pink. They dominate proceedings here. Splinters again.
Oh, Jim. All right. I'll give another tip out because I can't be Splinters Vandermark like you. I'll give you enough stick about it. Serial Sticker from me, again, box number 8. Is that going to be ideal? I'm hoping that it can, but this is probably the most open of the heats, if you ask me.
And that might have been the most open, but race 9, the last heat, I reckon, is the opposite. $1.65 Flying Zulu. I still feel like he could be on the brink of a Phoenix campaign. He might go to Hobart, win the 1,000. If he comes out and wins the heat, makes a statement. His win the other night was supreme at Sandown Park, and he probably should have won his heat of the Melbourne Cup the week before. So $1.65 is the price. Orly Bale at $2.50. I just think you'll get ahead of Orly Bale in the first 100 metres, and if they let Flying Zulu lead, they won't see which way he went. So he's probably my best of the program there at Hobart.
Yeah, I don't think I can go against you there, Jim. He's an absolute rocket. He's flying. Hobart should suit him. Not sure. Well, he won't have had a trial there, I'd imagine, but I don't think that'll matter. His class will get him through, and he's going to be hard to beat in the final if he makes it.
Well, Splinter Smithy, I said, mate, have you got a tip for me Wednesday night? He said, no, I'm going to sit on the fence the whole night long, and I'll do the hard yards. Don't worry about that. Race 10, number 2 at the Meadows. Wednesday night is the podcast tip. Moving forward, race 10, number 2, Paul Hallian. Unit the win, 4 units the play style of bet. Can get back, but can run on, and hopefully be pretty hard to beat at what should be an each-way price. That's race 10, number 2, Paul Hallian at the Meadows on Wednesday night. But, of course, gamble responsibly. Chances are you're going to lose. 1-800-858-858 or visit gamblinghelponline.au. I think I missed out on an org there, but there's an org somewhere in that, website. Smithy, do you want to hear a funny story as I let you go?
I'd love to hear a funny story. Jim, who are you getting on to tell me one?
Nah, me. I had spicy capsicum dip before I went on air the other night.
Oh, no.
Should I stop there or?
No. We talk about your North Spa too often on this podcast, but we may as well mention it again.
Well, anyway, I got to the Meadows, to Sandown, sorry. I was a little bit all over the place, and I got there slightly late, and I thought, gee, this spicy capsicum dip that I've had for lunch is just going straight through me. I could feel the burning sensation, so I rushed off to the toilet, and I could barely get off. It was shades of the diarrhea incident at the Meadows when I missed the preview and nearly missed race number 1. Anyway, as it turned out, I was able to get on set before we went to air for the racing.com coverage of the Melbourne Cup, and as it turned out, about 5 minutes into the coverage, Smithy, I just felt like it was just bubbling down there. So what I did, I said, boys, how long have we got with this Jason Thompson little piece they had on there? Went for 6 minutes. So I shot from downstairs at the Neil Brown Museum, upstairs, jostled through the crowds, went to the toot, cleaned up down there, made it back on set, and was good to go for the rest of the night.
That is just true professionalism there, Jim. I don't know how you manage. And I do have a question for you about the coverage as well, Jim. Did G Hall miss the memo about having the same suit jacket on, or was it just you and Peacock that decided that you just wear that bone jacket?
Well, the bone colour, the beige, the Richie Benno as they were calling me, to be honest, Hawley wears that nearly every week, the great man G, and he decided not to, so I borrowed his suit. Not sure how it fit on me, but it did. And the missus dressed me, mate, and everyone said, Jimmy, you look good. So I'm going to start rolling with those little bone-coloured suits a little bit more often. But as we do let you go, Smith, I know you got to get to SEN for a Lids fly tonight. Your boy, 3rd in the Group 1. Obviously, now we think maybe no to the Phoenix. We've both dropped him out. Where does he head to now? Because for mine, I think the Sale Cup just screams out his name. Is that the plan for the great dog?
Yeah, well, Jess was talking about it on the night, and I think you never make decisions on race night, and I'm not sure if she's made a final decision yet. But I think the way he's jumping, Sale Cup is obviously going to be a bit better. We're a little bit worried if he gets back in the field and gets caught wide. It's not the most forgiving first bend at Sale over 640. But the way he's jumping at the moment, and how fast he is over those first few sections over 700, I think everyone agrees that the 640 will suit. And then who knows, we might head up to Queensland and have a crack at some of the riches there over the summer. So I'll let Jess make all those decisions, but I think that's probably the way that we'll head.
Another holiday for Smithy. Good on you, mate. Look after yourself, and we'll speak to you next week. And I guarantee you there'll be a lot more water heading out into the ocean after 7 days from now.
I look forward to all that water out in the ocean, Jim.
Inside info.
Inside info. It's time for a greyhound trainer to make a bit of a case for one of their star greyhounds who right now is on the fringe of getting into the Phoenix. I speak of the Whelan kennel out of the most picturesque town I reckon that any greyhound trainer has ever hailed from, in Metung in far, let's say, East Gippsland, as I welcome Luke Whelan, who I think he's made himself the boss of Whelan Kennels at the moment. How are you, Lukey boy? And thanks for joining us.
How you going? Thanks for that.
Hey, are you the boss of Lakeview Kennels? You seem to strut around a bit more now. You've had a few star greyhounds, and every time I seem to see the Lakeview Kennels in the limelight, you're the man putting them in.
Oh, no, not really the boss. Me and Harley are just level pegged. We just, we just both make the decisions. It's, just talk about it together and discuss what we have to do. And Christine helps us. She's fairly involved now with us, so she's always at the meetings and stuff with us as well. But Harley and I organise all the racing and what we've got to do with them.
Is that a good thing, do you think, being able to discuss things with a group of people in order to try and make the right decision?
Oh, yeah, 100%. That's a big advantage. If you've got two eyes or three eyes, sets of eyes always looking over things, it makes it a lot of difference. And normally we both come up with the same idea. Two good minds think alike, so normally stuff works if you both come up with the same idea, and it just reassures yourself. If you're both thinking the same, that's normally the right move to make.
You had me a bit worried, mate, when you said there was only three eyes from three people taking a look at the dogs. I'm not sure where the other one is, but that's all right. Bit like the Winky Wonky Donkey. I think there's a song going around. He only had one leg and three eyes, or vice versa, but that's okay. We won't worry about that. The Wonky Kennels, I'll call you now, from Metung. Hey, how did you get involved in greyhound racing? How did this family that lives so far away from the metropolitan tracks in Victoria decide they wanted to take up greyhound training?
Dad actually had a couple when he was a real young kid and lived in Traralgon many moons ago. And our cousins actually went to pick a pup back by 2008, and we were with them heading to the races down in Melbourne, and we were calling in to pick some pups out, and Harley and I begged Dad to get one. So we ended up coming home with one and ended up rearing a litter, rearing three out of that litter, and it was Metung Missile, which was our first greyhound, and we sent that off the trainer, and then we sort of got the bug for it a bit and brought some more pups, and sort of just edged into it that way and just kept on working as we come along, sort of just grew and grew, and we're now here today.
Well,
still
mate,
training them.
Is it Lakeview Walter who, until Lakeview Emily, was the pin-up boy of the kennel?
Oh, yeah, he was a bloody good dog. He was a pin-up boy. Oh, he still lives the life of a king at the minute. I'd say she's probably nearly better than him so far now.
It reminds me, Lakeview Walter, because I hear some murmurs from the breakers and from people who have had pups out of Lakeview Walter, your star greyhound. He reminds me a little bit maybe of a Bernardo, obviously without the runs on the board as yet, because he had a great career without being, an out-and-out maybe superstar of the sport and really being the dominant greyhound. But he might just fit the category of a greyhound like Bernardo, who was really high class, could compete at the top level. Then he went to stud and just went to another level. Because is it true, Lukey boy, there's a couple of good pups coming through out of your boy Walter?
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, there's a couple on the move at the minute. Probably look just after Christmas, and you should see a few on the track. But as breaking reports, there's a couple coming along pretty nicely.
Hey, mate, we spoke just then of Lakeview Walter, who I think was the real kennel star, and it must have been a great thrill to train him. And to be honest, for a lot of trainers, they're greyhounds that come around once in a lifetime. And then for your kennel and your family, you then produce a greyhound by the name of Lakeview Emily, who arguably is as quick as any greyhound in the country. She won at the Meadows on Friday night in 29.50, just about on the dot, 29.52 for memory. What's it like training this girl, and is it? Can you believe that, I guess, you've had Lakeview Walter and now you've got a greyhound that arguably is faster than him?
Oh, yeah, it's a bit surreal to end up with two of them, but mind you, the hours that get put behind the scenes, you want to end up with something like it's not just a couple of hours every day. It's 3 or 4 hours in the morning, a couple of hours of a night, and 7 days a week. So when you're putting that money and time and effort into them, you hope to see the results like we've got lately. And with breeding the litters and time and effort, you just hope you get these dogs to make it all well worth it. So, but yeah, at the end of the day, you're still going to be very lucky to end up with them sorts of dogs.
And mate, the dream, I think, of any greyhound trainer is mixing it in the big races. This is the Phoenix Flight Path, where we're breaking down the lead up to the great slot race here in Victoria. $1 million up for grabs to the winner of the Phoenix of 2024. I guess, having you on the podcast, mate, why should the remaining slot holders pick Lakeview Emily to represent them?
Oh, honestly, if you look at consistency and at the track that race is going to be raced at, you wouldn't get a much more consistent greyhound to the first peg and overall times that she's doing at the minute. Like, she's religiously near the 5 flat mark early. Through the second peg, she's going 17.50, and for an overall time of 29.50 to 60, probably on 4 or 5 occasions now, is pretty rare from a greyhound, and she's doing that fairly consistently. So I thought there would have been plenty of eyes chasing her. You know yourself, if you're going through them marks with them times, like, geez, they're hard to reel in them sorts of dogs. And not to mention, she can do it from box 1 to 8, which not a lot of dogs can do it from any box.
That's a decent push for Lakeview Emily. There's only 2 slot holders remaining that are yet to have picked their greyhound to represent them. Of course, the Flame will be the other one decided at Albion Park on Thursday. What's it like training dogs from Metung? Because you are a long, long way from the metropolitan tracks, but you're obviously willing to put the hours in, and the numbers, the results, they speak for themselves. But is it challenging? And second part of that question, is there ever chatter about maybe moving closer to Melbourne town with the dogs?
It's not really challenging because we've got a few numbers behind us. Obviously you've got to allow a bit more time to do things, but it's more of probably a case of everywhere you go, make sure you've got a couple of numbers with you, so you're making a trip well worth it. Yeah, we've potentially brought a blocking sale to move a little bit closer down to the metropolitan region to build a new setup down there, and expand a little bit more to get a few more dogs coming through. But there's still nothing like home. It's paradise when you come back. You're pretty glad to get home from the metropolitan area, I can assure you that.
I'm a bit the same, mate, getting up to the Yarra Valley. I can't wait to get out of the metro bubble. But for you, mate, if you were to make it into the Phoenix, how would you become a celebrity down there at the Metung pub if you could make it into a Phoenix and then go on and win a Phoenix, do you think?
I'd probably just put a bit of money behind the bar and get on the beers, I'd say. Yeah, drink a bit of it, no doubt.
What would you do, mate? On a serious note, it's $1 million race. Obviously, it depends on the percentages with slot holders, but it is a life-changing race if you were to win a Phoenix. What would you do with the cash? Would you? I know you'd put some money on the bar, but would you buy a jet ski? What would be the way you'd use the cash of winning the great race?
Yeah, I'll probably buy another jet ski or something to have a bit of a toy from it. But I'd put it all back into the dogs. What I win off them, I like to put back into the properties and back into the dogs. Try and build it up a bit more, try and get a few more numbers and put it into the facilities to try and make things better and easier for ourselves in the long run. It's the more you put in, hopefully the more you get out. That's sort of the way we look at it.
Mate, it's a great outlook, and I've seen photos of your property. I've actually driven past and stalked it a few times as well, mate, when I've been holidaying down in the area, and she is pristine. So it's a credit to the whole Whelan family, mate. We wish you well in the lead up to the Phoenix if she gets a place. If not, I know she's going to be up in the big races moving forward, no doubt about that. She's an absolute superstar, Lakeview Emily. So good luck with everything moving forward, mate. And I'm just a little bit jealous that I walk outside to a dirt road and hills. You walk outside to the lovely lakes of Gippsland and the beautiful town of Metung. So enjoy the rest of the night and good luck with the next few weeks, mate. We can't wait to see if she gets in.
Thanks for that. Thanks for your time.
What are you really gambling with? For free and confidential support, call 1-800-858-858 or visit gamblinghelponline.org.au.